Ken, here I am.
Yeah.
Uh, well, there's a new project in the incubator for Yasha. So launch, obviously needs to go through a vote. Decks need to be put together, but we're in the initial stages of helping a project sort of formulate their whole game plan, which is really what Yasha is kind of about, right? Is somebody has an idea, and so
Sure.
it's okay. Let's put together the steps, the different angles that we need to hit in order to get to that go to market type strategy, right? So the project, it's really cool. I'm not sure. I'll do my best to try to describe it. It's pretty interesting, and then maybe we could cut this little segment out, and then I can post it in Yasha.
Okay.
Yeah, so that they can see kind of what's going on and whatnot. But so
Sure.
basically the project, it's the best way to liken it is bizbuysell.com
Uh-huh.
for crypto, for
Mm.
Web3. For those that aren't familiar with bizbuysell.com, it's basically like the largest business sale aggregate um, on the internet. It's like you can sell a business, you can buy a business, you can make offers on businesses that are for sale. This is like, maybe you have a gas station that you want to sell, or a car wash, or a restaurant, right? There's all sorts of different levels of businesses out there that are for sale.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think what the team is trying to do here, which is pretty exciting, is essentially create like an acquisition portal,
Mhm.
uh, so that people can use their crypto money. They can probably leverage against their crypto money to acquire businesses in Web3, right? Or out of Web3, right? Like in real life.
Mhm.
Pretty exciting, I think, because there's going to be like a DAO creation type of element to it, where
Mm.
multiple people can come together and essentially create a fundraiser, right? To pool crypto money that then they can then leverage against to acquire businesses in real life. So like you and some buddies want to put together some sort of decentralized governance entity,
Yeah.
essentially,
Mhm.
pool some funds and then leverage against those funds to acquire a business using your crypto money. That would be the path forward. It's going to take a lot of business development. Obviously, you need listings, right?
Sure.
You need listings, and you need the business owners to want to accept cryptocurrency as well, or fiat for that matter. It doesn't really matter. So I think that there's going to be, and don't this, I know it's recorded and everything, so I got to be careful what I say. But I think that the platform itself, right? Obviously, there will be some sort of finder's fee. I think the token will be like a reward situation for finder's fee, right?
Mhm.
As well as token ownership and staking and rewards, and a rewards pool will essentially be from the sale of those businesses. I think that people will be able to gamify the acquisition of businesses, right? Especially if they're cash flow producing. There's lots of Web3 companies out there that are producing cash flow. Maybe somebody wants to list a company for like, $5 million, and it has a 10% cap rate, it's producing $500,000. Then you can pool, borrow at a 5% for a 10% cap rate, so you're cash flowing, and then you could have raised that initial collateral, right, decentrally, in that
Mhm.
sort of DAO creation platform.
Yeah.
So re- really like the project. I think it's super cool. Really
For sure.
awesome lead right now. So I think right now we're gonna try to figure out how to strategize on putting together like a very well-rounded team. Obviously, you need a good CEO. You need some solid business developers. People that are essentially canvassing for deals. Luckily, there's some business sale aggregates out there like Biz Buy Sell, so they have a place to start. They can contact some of those businesses, and then a good legal team. Always a good legal team.
A lot of those places, in my experience, Biz Buy Sell, they're sellers who are using brokers. And my imagination is that for this to be most beneficial, you want to get around the broker's fee. So I'm imagining that a lot of these deals might be direct.
I think a good broker, a lot of real estate agents also semi-double as business brokers as well. Sometimes they're listing a piece of real estate and there's a business attached to it. And so like occasionally the real estate agent is sort of outside of their wheelhouse, but they're doing another job that maybe they don't have a ton of experience with. But I think the business broker fee, I think, is totally fine. And business, a broker that's listing, that's bringing more deal flow to the platform, I think is also just fine. And then obviously the platform will take a fee. So.
And how's the management happening? Is that amongst the folks who have acquired the business, or is it managed initially in the DAO while it's still being financed, if you will?
Oh, no, it's whoever is making the acquisition. Are you talking about the management of the business itself?
Of the business that is acquired, correct.
Oh, yeah, whoever's buying it, right?
Got it.
The DAO, essentially, like creation platform is just if people want to essentially like pool, if strangers, basically, people that don't actually know each other want to pool funds into a decentralized, decentrally governed pool, right?
Sure.
And then leverage, potentially leverage that. So, but yeah, management is whoever is going to take over and essentially run that business, right?
Makes sense. I was just wondering whether or not it would be under DAO management before it was paid off, because obviously then the risk to the DAO is that they've loaned a certain amount. I don't know, obviously, any how it's structured to protect against loss, but if you lend the funds for a business that can then be managed or mismanaged to the value of zero, then obviously there's some potential risk there.
Hang on, my kid is like shouting at me. I'm just gonna mute really quick. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. I'm your hold music, guys. And if you don't like that hold music, oh, he's back.
Okay, I'm back. Hey, thanks. Sorry.
Cool. No problem.
She's wondering what she can do this afternoon. Saying go draw. Go draw. Yeah, whoever, obviously the acquirer, it depends on what the business is. I'm just gonna clean that off a little bit. It depends on what the business is, who the person acquiring the business is, but some want, whether it's lifestyle, entrepreneurship, or whatever it might want to purchase that business because they want to run it. But they can use crypto, or they can potentially raise money via crypto. They can also do it via fiat, right, if they want. It's going to be interesting moving into this lending space where, in commercial lending, where the asset that's being purchased is essentially like the most scrutinized aspect of that financing, right? Where like, does this building or this business, does it cash flow to meet the obligation, right? And then obviously the borrower, specifically. But if with the DAO creation platform, if they're able to create a pool that's run by DAO governance, it doesn't need to be a token, or anything. It can be its own little DAO, issue NFTs for, whatever it might be. And and essentially govern that pool of funds to leverage to acquire a business. Maybe it's a Web3 business, maybe it's an online business. There's lots of businesses out there, e-commerce, whatever it might be that can be purchased, listed for sale, so on and so forth.
Right. Makes sense. Do you have a timeline for us, or general timeline?
I don't. I think that it's a project that's in the incubator currently. The lead for the project is super super smart, like great lead for the project. So like we're more than happy to support them in their journey, and glad and honored to be a part of it, to move forward, and hopefully we can have a pretty successful fundraise and a solid launch. It might be something that other projects in the ecosystem or other treasuries outside want to be a part of as well, so kind of cool overall. So gonna try to get get that platform squared away, get the necessary relationships in place for different lending, business acquisition, type lending and whatnot, and then get some good business developers to go acquire or to go populate the platform with deals that are to be purchased, potentially. So
Sure. Sounds good. Let's
yep.
move on. I'm interested to see when it comes out. But let's make sure that we break it here when it's closer to time. I want to make sure that we put the right before the pre-sale happens. Make sure we can get that on the channel.
Cool.
All right. Moving forward to the market. What's up? Are we out of the bear market? What's happening?
Oh goodness, I don't know. Nobody knows. I think
Of course, you're the oracle of the blockchain.
nobody knows unless you're like a mega whale that can really move the price of ETH around, right? So I think there's the ETH 2.0 type merge. You see Ethereum Classic pumping really hard. You see some of the other layer 2 ETH support projects pumping pretty good right now, pump pretty well. So I think I don't know. This is just perspective, okay?
Sure.
It's just perspective. It's not financial advice or anything, but generally, when you see a lot of news and you see a lot of FUD, you see a lot of negative news that says like $500 ETH coming, $600 ETH coming, and then you have a lot of 20-something, year olds saying, I'm going to wait for 600. I'm going to buy at 600. I'm going to buy at 700.
Yeah.
Man, I saw a $1,000 ETH and I'm like, you know what? I'm buying that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I saw a big liquidation point at 895. It was like 250 million at 895. And I thought for sure, I saw it the night before. I'm like, for sure, some asshole hedge fund guy, some bigger guy is going to try to liquidate whoever this is here at 895. So I put a big order in 895. It filled, and then it just dipped down to 880 and then seemed to go back up. And so right now, good $700 over that entry.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. You're always, again, not financial, but you're always going to want a DCA regardless, because if you buy some at 1,000, like I saw $1,000 ETH, like 1025, I put my first order in. That was on the way down. I'm like,
right.
You know what? Maybe I'm catching a falling knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seemed like a good deal to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So bought some there, 1025. If it goes to 900, you buy again. If you buy equal amounts, your average price, your entry is actually 950.
That's
Right?
fair. Yeah.
If it goes down again, buy twice as much as you did the time before. Now maybe your new average is 900, even though the price is 800. right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so you can always DCA, and it's not like, oh, just save up a bunch of cash and then wait for 600 or wait for 700 or whatever it is. So definitely DCAing is a good way to go, especially if you like what ETH does, if it provides utility for you. I think DCAing is the way to go. But from my short experience and novice experience here, I think that generally when you see a bunch of FUD and you see all sorts of weird negative news, like overall, especially when you look at the overall fundamentals of certain things, like obviously inflation is way up,
sure.
but there's so much cash on the sidelines. Job
Yeah,
market is still strong. Obviously, if they say recession, you'll start to see layoffs or maybe people not hiring. But I think elsewhere, I think consumers, are still have a lot of cash. Like they're still buying things all the time. Um, so that's really strong. So if you see a lot of FUD and you see a lot of people speculating about a $600 entry, personally, I think like they're gonna make people chase. Everybody's stabilized. If they sold the bottom,
yeah.
they'll run it up, and people will be in a worse position than they were previously, right?
I agree. Yeah, for sure. Educate me on this because maybe I missed the point here. Generally, so in a recession or any kind of economic downturn, it seems like money comes out of crypto, and I'm guessing that money would be from people who aren't necessarily sold on crypto, but find it to be a secondary market to the stock market, for instance, or any other more traditional way to invest. It seems like, though, if the dollar is doing worse, that people who do believe in crypto will be pounding crypto in a recession, for instance. And I don't see that. Do you have am I misreading the situation or
Oh, gosh. Okay, let me wrap my head around that one.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not an economist, you know. I don't know a whole lot about the overall market. You know what I mean? I'm not
yeah.
looking at a bunch of TA. It's gonna sound dumb, but I operate on a lot of gut feelings.
No, that
They
makes sense. Yeah,
they turn out. Um, yeah, I try to stick to my core competency, right? Which is like, finding helping people develop their business models, go to market, general like overall incubation, early stage, businesses, right? And over man, I think what they're finding, once the inflation numbers came out, it seemed like more money came into crypto. Overall, recession wise, I don't see why, especially now that we have more and more adoption all the time. I don't see why money would necessarily leave crypto. I think that the launches that you're seeing have low volume because there's not as many people participating, right?
sure.
It's a very similar group. There's 1,000 holders in a new launch. It's probably 80% of them are probably in the next launch too.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Um, so there are opportunities, obviously, and like low market is always opportunity. Right now, I think what you're gonna find is people are like kicking themselves that they didn't buy 1,000 or they didn't buy 900. And they now it's like scary. Now it's like, okay, well, where is it going now? Because there's still so much negative news.
sure.
There's so always people want entry. If they didn't get enough at 1,000, maybe they'll FUD and create some price suppression again. Just speculative on my part, guys. Just speculative. But maybe they'll create some more price suppression to get another $1,000 entry. I think that we saw that um, the other day. Yeah. So
Yeah,
sorry about the question. It's hard, man. I think that what you're finding, if you see money leaving in the last month or so, it's because there's a lot of big new billionaire hedge funds, right, and managers that are getting liquidated. right?
Mm-hmm.
And who is liquidating them, right? And you'll start to see like, oh, Morgan Stanley wants to get into crypto and start offering crypto as an investment package, right? Or Goldman Sachs is now getting into crypto, right? Like you start to see like bigger and bigger older money coming in and liquidating some of the new billionaires, right? So yeah.
So you're saying they're creating their own favorable entry point then?
I mean, speculative
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
on
Let's
my
go with that.
part, but I mean, you know, who else has the power to like suppress price to liquidate a $250 million position? You know what
That's
I mean?
fair. Yeah, you're right.
Bro,
I
like
agree.
it's either a country or it's one of these fucking old banks. Maybe it's a mega whale. It's
Yeah.
just it's the Bogdan twins or something. I don't know.
Let's move to something that's definitely in your wheelhouse. What's going on around Yasha
Oh, well,
outside of the release?
yeah, well, the start of the episode, obviously another project in the incubator. We're making progress here with Flash. Obviously, the market is looking better, so that's on the table. Their project as well as their tools, right, that they've been building out are heavily NFT focused, and so maybe seeing some positivity in the NFT market as well would be ideal, right? Would be ideal. The let's see, yeah. So there's Flash. There's the project in the incubator. MCO is if you guys saw recently and pinned on the Telegram, there's a lot of development in the Unreal 5 build out overall. So that's really exciting. I think might not be a token, might be a pure NFT project. Geez, what else? There's a lot going on. Yasha. Well, the V3 contract seems to be performing really well.
Yeah.
I know that the team, I think Oot and Hawk, Utkarsh and Rahul are going to be putting together an NFT package to try to raise a little bit of money to add to the liquidity for some more fuel for the burns, right? So there's that.
Nearing 10 million.
Huh?
Almost at that 10 million mark a couple times.
Yeah, I think that we actually did kill the zero there for a brief moment.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
One buy or one sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So pretty exciting there. That's a fifth down from all-time high. So hopefully we start to climb again. Again, it's one of those things like Yasha. I was talking to Scott today on the phone, and I'm like, he's so mad at all these projects out there that just fuel their growth and their holder base like through hype, like of things to come and whatnot. And we were talking, it's like, you know what, Yasha is one of those projects that like throughout its entire lifespan has consistently delivered, right? Consistently delivered over and over and over and over again. And on its utility and what the people inside of the DAO and management group are supposed to be doing, right? Which is helping new projects launch, with some incubation, acceleration type of help, whether it's development help, strategy help, go to market branding help, that's like what we do. Like anybody comes to us, they're like, hey, we have an idea, we see a path forward, we're like, okay, and then we help them. That's it. That's what Yasha is. You know what I mean? There's nothing, and we've been pretty consistent at it, so additionally, inside of Yasha, Optimus has taken over. Grog was too slow. Sorry,
really?
Grog. Sorry, Grog. Yeah, Grog was too slow. I don't know what was going on. And so Optimus, now that he's done with the Pochi front ends, Men's helping that team with their Men's, and Z was helping with that one as well. Again, that's another one of the aspects of the incubation process. Obviously, Optimus was available. You know, let's get on this. Let's get on this. Mint site. We'll get the front end done and integrate the contract. Z helps make the contract, assigns image data to the different tokens, right, for the mint. And then, okay, and now Pochi team has a mint. Go do with it as you will, right? So there's that. So Optimus is going to be building out the website. They're working on tiers right now. They're grabbing images. I think they're going samurai themed for the tiers. Like like a shogunate is going to be like one of the higher tiers. And then there's going to be like, different apprentice samurai. Like, I think that's what they're going with. I'm letting them, they're handling it. There's a big team, a lot of capable people. It's a lot of things I just don't have to be involved with,
For sure. Yeah.
So pretty exciting. And then the Neko software build was accepted at the Google store, so they're proceeding with their public beta test.
Great news. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah. Anything else we're forgetting? Let's think.
Guzzler has a big update coming up here pretty soon. Man, I'm going to talk about Guzzler every project. So Scott is going to start pushing Guzzler again really hard, because I think that it's just more fun to push GameFi projects than anything else, because you can be like, hey, I'm actually having fun right now playing the game, as opposed to like, here's this thing that maybe somebody's going to use that you have to connect your wallet to, and
for sure, yeah,
it's going to manage your money and give you financial freedom. Like, it's different with GameFi. It's like, hey, we're building a game. You can play the game, right?
Yeah.
So Guzzler has some big updates. I think most recently, and probably here in short time, if you guys have downloaded the app recently, you guys see now it's like a garage mode with the cars swooping in. Next update is being able to install parts in game onto your car to modify the appearance. There's going to be an NFT contract on testnet with the accessory, body kit accessories and whatnot, images assigned to different tokens, so that when you connect your wallet on testnet to the game and you're in garage, those specific accessories and whatnot will exist inside of your inventory in game, and then you'll be able to apply them onto your car. So this is like, a big step in the customizing NFT progress with the Guzzler game. In addition, the fighting game is now on a web build in its beta form. We've been fighting each other in multiplayer, so multiplayer is actually working pretty well. People are testing the poker game on the internet in the poker build out, and then the Game Hub contracts for the contest and whatnot. The Game Hub contracts were audited. They were successful in their audits. They've been deployed, and now the front end is being updated on the Game Hub site to match the games that Farouk has built for the Game Hub as well. So tons of updates. Super undervalued project, in my opinion. Obviously needs a bit more outreach and a bit more coverage. But I think we'll do a free NFT mint for the cars so that people can go play the game and get excited about it. So
good. So while I'm here, I'm gonna give you an idea. You can call it a pitch, you can call it brainstorming, you can call it just a pontification, however you want to look at it. I was thinking about the Voodoo project, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Voodoo. What if you had the Voodoo NFTs,
okay,
and their value were increased by the ways that you would manipulate or mutilate them in a very similar way to the Guzzler add-ons, so that the NFTs are voodoo dolls, right? And then if you want to modify them to make them kind of more odd or creepy, that's when you would have the add-on, the paid add-on.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, that might be pretty cool. I would go ahead and pitch it inside of the group. I'll pass it
Yeah,
forward, or I'll make the group look at this video, so that they can see. I do know some of the things that they've been brainstorming on and building, and some of them have some of these things already built,
yeah,
uh, like a tornado cash type of thing.
yes, yeah,
Voodoo your money.
yeah, yeah.
But it's tough, on BSC. There's no real like privacy type layer, right? Because it's all Binance, so
Mhm.
it's sort of like, doesn't really make sense. At least on BSC, a bridge would be cool, right? But just another tool that Yasha people can use that would help them like go back and forth between chains, right? And we're trying to, that's another use case for Yasha, is helping people understand DeFi better and better each day, and giving them new things to learn all the time. And then lastly, I think there's another one. There's lots of stablecoin farms or
Mm,
miners. They're kind of
yeah.
like Ponzi's, they're a little bit like Ponzi's, but there's this one that seems to actually be working. It seems to be a good Ponzi. And so they're thinking about forking that one and making a voodoo miner for
Mm.
stablecoin mining. So that one's pretty cool. There is like a flaw in some of the systems, but this one that has recently come out seems to be like a pretty good Ponzi miner,
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Hey, I hope it works.
yeah.
On a related note, let's check this out here. I pulled some excerpts from a podcast. Uh, it is a podcast that deals with DeSci.
Okay.
And it's called the Priv8 Podcast, and it's hosted by a guy named Derek Silva. He interviewed a Steve McCloskey who works with Nanome, and I've put all that information below. And I want to play a few clips for you. The first one is the longest one, so bear with me. It's about 3.5 minutes. So once you listen, if at any point you want me to pause, I can. But I want you to listen to it. It kind of sets up the use case for DeSci as he kind of defines it, and I want you to respond to it after you've heard what he's had to say.
We had this idea of, all right, how do we crowdsource and decentralize all this? If you know, there's a popular game called Fold It. And with Fold It, it's like all these gamers that are dragging their mouse trying to like predict protein structures. Before AlphaFold came out, this was kind of one of the ways to potentially predict protein structures was with human insights. We had this idea of like, all right, well, why don't we allow that for drug development and have all these people looking at the binding pocket and making new drugs that might fit inside of it and crowdsource that and run different competitions. Apparently, we weren't the only ones thinking about this. That same lab that did Fold It had also thought about this. We talked with one of their former grad students that had been in that lab. The idea is cool, but the implementation, it seemed impossible because University of Washington wanted to own all the IP of all the gamers. But then the lab thought the gamers should own their own IP, but then managing that was a disaster. And we kind of saw the same thing, but we saw blockchain as a solution of like, all right, well, if you design a drug, hash it on chain. And if you hash it on chain, you now have an immutable timestamp that shows that you were the first creator. So we made this whole platform around that idea to help crowdsource different research projects, whether they're in drug discovery or other areas as well. And this whole concept was first to hash. If you know about the patent system, we're currently on first to file. It used to be first to invent. But we're believers that the future is going to be first to hash, and we could help kind of decentrally build this future by just implementing the right smart contracts on the blockchain and building that out. So that was our first foray into what is now called decentralized science. We just called it like decentralized research platform, something like that. And DeSci is a very catchy thing, and I think that a lot of the people that are in DeSci now didn't even exist in 2017. Yeah, we were kind of one of the first that were doing decentralized science in meaningful ways. And nowadays, there's all these DAOs that are popping up, and I think the infrastructure that we built with the smart contracts on Ethereum could even be used internally within DAOs because if you have a distributed team around the world developing new compounds, like yeah, you want to make sure that, these things get attributed to the DAO, they get attributed to the, addresses and the people within the DAO that actually made them. And you encourage people to really be sharing this information on a more frequent basis. So yeah, nowadays, like, I think that there's important causes in the world that are traditionally underfunded in the VC and private equity and biotech pharma world. And I think biodefense is one of them, where if you're going around pitching your startup and there's not this way to make huge amounts of money directly by saying, all right, we got 10 million patients globally and they have this disease, and if we make this drug, we're going to make $10 billion a year by helping their lives. Like, yeah, that's kind of the framework. But if you say, hey, I want to make drugs and vaccines and other things for potential future pandemics, maybe now it's a little bit hot, with COVID-19 and everything happening, but it's still traditionally underfunded. And so that's where I think, DAOs could really help out, is, bringing people together to really help with these causes that humanity needs that just might be underfunded.
And you say, sir?
Oh, well, that end part, just because it's fresh in my head, I mean, that is the idea of the Science DAO, right? Is sort of create a crowdfunding platform to take the burden off, individual investors, like angel investors or VCs or private equity, so on and so forth. And so that first initial bit, the first initial section. So here's this thing, right? So AI, machine learning is to the point where I think that recently or it might have been a couple of years ago now, time really goes by fast, but they took a computer, right, against, I think it was like 80 of the best like diagnosticians in China, to see who could diagnose diseases faster, right? And it was like the AI, the computer was like beat the 200 scientists or 80 scientists, whatever they had, that were the best, at diagnosing different rare diseases and whatnot. The AI computer beat them in diagnosing, and it had like a almost 90% accuracy rate. So it's one of those things that, like, do you create these, just responding to the first excerpt,
Sure.
do you create these think tanks where a bunch of human beings, right, are essentially contributing on chain data, human derived data to address certain diseases in the world? Or do you kind of ramp up development and keep, because science, medicine at this point is big data, right? That's like what it is. Like many of these companies, systems biology, everything are essentially data companies, like the human,
Genome Project.
the biology of a human being, if you were to expand out, it's an insane amount of volume. See, for a lot of these genetic research projects, you need an entire data center, right? Or cloud solution, something to handle the amount of data that they're running through. There might be a human being that ventures down a very niche path and finds and discovers something that nobody else is. But yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that we're in line. Obviously, the Science DAO wasn't around in 2017.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think that we're in line. So
far, so good. I have a question about the study. I'm not familiar with it, and I don't know, the extent to which you've engaged with it. But the idea that the AI was outperforming all the top specialists, is this just a matter of the time that it takes to run through those differentials in terms of the diagnosing of?
I think it was accuracy.
Got it.
Yeah, accurately diagnosing.
Yeah. Well, wow, that's incredible then.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like, okay, well, it's one of those things like the eye doctors
Then you got
optometrists.
the optometrists and the ophthalmologists.
Yeah. I think at this point, right, you can look into a machine and it'll kind of tell you exactly what you need, right, for your eyes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
a lot of these, just with the autonomous labor and whatnot coming up here in the future, and even right now, a lot of these fields are essentially obsolete at some point. So like, you might not need human beings to complete a lot of these tasks here in the future, right?
For sure. All right. Let's go to the second of three, which is the role of DeSci in society. This is a much shorter, about a minute long.
Making it easier for them to figure out, whether their hypothesis is going to work, more or less. Is that pretty close?
Yeah, and even come up with new hypotheses and new ideas, and try to help them validate or invalidate them. A lot of costs in drug discovery is actually working on things that end up failing. So if you're able to fail and get rid of drugs from your pipeline earlier and pivot and change it and make something new, you're going to end up saving a lot of money on different assays and tests and synthesis and all that, as well as just time. It's all about time to market with these drugs, because the sooner you get to market, the sooner you're improving patient lives or saving lives, the sooner these companies are able to start making revenue and actually growing a business. So speeding up research and getting rid of those compounds that are going to fail anyways, and realizing that early on, but with new insights in VR.
So does that resonate with you? Was any of that is a part of your decision making with regard to the desire for the science DAO?
At the end there, he was talking about virtual reality?
Yeah, so he uses virtual reality in order to examine certain what's the element? I think it's right, nanodes or whatever. I don't know the thing exactly. I have a link to the website, but in other words, he's looking at these elements using VR so that they can be manipulated. Like they're obviously three-dimensional in real life, and his argument is when you study them in a book, they're clearly two-dimensional. And the best way to really get to know the element is to look at it in the best way possible that's most realistic. So he employs VR in order to study the science.
Right. Okay. So the Science DAO, obviously, it has the ability to host and potentially support people that are working on this sort of thing. Why wouldn't it? However, I think that there's so many different niches, right?
Mm-hmm.
In science. Okay, there's obviously these guys working on new cures for diseases. That's a really interesting and an exciting field to be in, right? Especially with the potential, like when you've seen how sorry, there's this fly coming at me right now. Especially when you've seen like how wildly successful Moderna was, not just on a monetary, level, but in terms of it potentially helping lots of people around the world, right?
Sure.
Whether you believe in that or not.
Well, yeah,
I'm not going there. Yeah. But I think that a lot of these research labs and whatnot, especially coming from some of the people that are in the Science DAO, new disease discovery is heavily software integrated, right?
Yeah.
Running, an infinite number of possibilities to see. I don't think that Web3, right? Like, I don't think that Web3 is going to be like, it has anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't need Web3. I think the biggest thing that DeSci, at least that the Science DAO can do for science, right, is give the deal flow, right, like what some of these people are working on, And I could be totally wrong. Okay, maybe they're using blockchain instead of some other form of cryptography or software development. I don't know if Ethereum, the Ethereum chain, is the best thing for their research. Okay, I doubt it. All right, I'm sure that they have some other geniuses working on something. But I think the best thing is giving people inside of DeFi the ability to attach their cryptocurrency value into the sciences. That is the bridge that we're trying to build. We're not doing any big data type stuff at right now.
Yeah.
We're not making computer. God, dude, there's this one fly that is just coming at me, and it's because
feed it to the peacock, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Man, can you imagine? Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we're not trying to cure any diseases personally. However, we want to give the exposure, for the people that are working on this stuff across multiple niches and industries. We're not just focusing on biopharma, right? We want to give them the exposure and the potential to raise money for their research based on the sentiment of the public as opposed to individual investors, right?
I want to give you a chance to, and it could just be me that got lost, but I want to make sure when this goes out that no one else is. And that is, you said that Science DAO is not looking to cure disease, but there is a relationship in place to assist with the cure for type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the Science DAO specifically is not a research lab, right?
Right.
Okay. Whether it becomes that in the future, that's up to the DAO.
Right.
Okay. Right now, we want to find the people that are trying to cure diseases.
Got you. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It is different. I can't come on here and be an expert at
everything,
systems
everything
biology.
Scientific. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
I got it. I just want to make sure that what you're saying is it is not the sole purpose of the DAO to cure disease. However, but you are in a position, of the Science DAO is in a position to facilitate good projects, and if one is the cure of a disease,
absolutely,
then that's fine. You support that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
If especially if we can make something happen, and especially if the think tank, the initial inception comes from inside of the Science DAO, that would be even more epic. What it turns into for or how it comes to be or who's involved, that's really that's adjacent, right, to the Science DAO. So yeah, we're not running any big data anything or running software to create infinite combinations of compounds and see how they react to different proteins, right, to see what works. And I'm not sure that Web3 is really the answer, but I think that the DeFi, decentralized finance, can definitely play a role in helping speed some of these things up, right?
To your point, two things that you've named today, if I'm not mistaken, go hand in hand. The Human Genome Project, but for that project, we don't get a quick solution or medication for a pandemic illness. I don't want to say the things that would get us flagged, but there was a pandemic recently, maybe ongoing, right? And then Moderna comes up with a medication vaccine that relies on finding the specific area of infection that we don't get to understand as much, but for the Human Genome Project. And so if you were able to facilitate or help fund a project like that or the next big thing, then you're lending a hand to, just generations and generations of research and development. And, you never know what the project today will turn into down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, goodness, if anybody, I mean, we have, there's some really fascinating, interesting people involved in the science DAO, but it is not specifically biopharma related.
Mhm.
If there was somebody working on a new life straw, those life straws, where you
Uh,
can, it's like a
the
Sawyer. It's for camping or hiking or whatever it might be, where you can drink, out of like dirty water and it filters it.
the filter. Yeah.
Yeah, like if it was some project like the life straw, I
Yeah.
think that would be totally fine, right? Like something that,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I think a big thing that we're seeing coming up here is food scarcity, right? In northern Africa and the Middle East, probably in the next
Mhm.
year or two. So
Yeah.
can somebody make a not hungry pill? Like, as
Yeah.
crazy as that sounds, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it you're going to be dealing with a ton of food scarcity. Is there some hydroponic system that's super easy to implement for there's not a lot of tillable land in Egypt, right? But like 80% of their diet is wheat related, right? Wheat or so
Sure.
when you have the Ukraine and Russia producing like 20% of the world's wheat, and that port in Odessa is a major export point for all the wheat that the Ukraine is producing, runs down through the sea there and through the channel and then over to Africa and the Middle East. Their entire like last year's wheat harvest, right, is just sitting in silos. It's unable to be exported, right? And now
Mm.
their tillable land is essentially ruined, right,
Mhm.
from war.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're bro, like you're gonna see some extreme uh food Armageddon type of situations. And
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
Egypt especially, pretty pretty bad situation. So
And on a related note, going back to a couple weeks ago, the Twitter space and in one episode of the show, there's water issues as well. I was watching a documentary on what it means to remove the salt from ocean water eventually, for the water needs in places like California and the West Coast and in other countries. South Africa is running out of water, etc. And then the question is, well, what now do you do with this leftover brine? Right now, now you just make it like if you dump it back in the ocean, then the salt water is just saltier than it used to be, and now you have to work twice as hard to clean the next batch. Like so, yeah. I mean, we have lots of global sustainability issues to work through, and they're going to require some funds, and you don't want to delay the development of any of these things.
yeah, I mean,
Which,
that's any one of those is a great niche for the science DAO to explore and try to be a part of as well, right? Like I think that a lot of people think science and whatnot, they think of scientists in labs and biopharma and disease curing and stuff like that. Whereas like that is a huge thing, right? And
yeah,
it's maybe some of the most commercially parabolic, one of the most commercially parabolic sectors. Um, However, there's many other issues facing humanity that are of great interest to the science DAO. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah. I have one more excerpt for you. I know we're running up against it. Let me get it out.
yep,
Just a second.
Yeah, that was actually the word I was going to use next was compound. Like maybe eliminating one ingredient from that compound, replacing it with another. You'd be able to figure that out a lot sooner, and I guess potentially actually drop the cost of these drugs because a big part of that of the reason a shot of I don't know some new experimental cancer drug comes is like $1,000 each or $20,000 each is because it took them an inordinate amount of time and effort and money to develop it in the first place. So if you can get that down by an order of magnitude, potentially they could actually come to market with a cheaper drug that is actually accessible to more people. And whether it's in the States with mostly private healthcare or here, which is mostly public healthcare, publicly funded or publicly insured, everybody wins because the company probably beats competitors, Moderna, Pfizer, whoever, GlaxoSmithKline beats a competitor to market. That's great. They win. The prices could be more affordable. It means more people can actually use it. And whoever is paying for it is happier as well because they're spending less on it.
Agree or disagree?
Okay, so I'm looking at this podcast. Is this an overall science podcast or is it DeSci, like blockchain technology
The
integrated
latter.
science?
Yeah.
Okay, so look, here's the thing. You don't need blockchain to do what he's talking about.
Mhm.
Okay, you don't. There's also, man, on the Science DAO panel, you have people like John Atchison. Okay, who's like, systems biology guru. Like you have compute. I think when you get to a certain level, it's all data related. And yes, you can develop. For instance, Mark was the chairman, chief operating officer for the Institute for Systems Biology. Okay, the ISB was founded by Lee Hood, who invented the DNA sequencer. Okay, although it's a research lab, right? Research lab development center, whatever it might be. And forgive me, guys, if you're watching this and I'm saying something wrong. But software development and big data is an integral part of systems biology. Being able to run computer programs 24 hours a day to see if different combinations work. The amount of equations that you're running takes huge computing power, right? Like it's and so you don't need, like, ISB is not like a blockchain Web3 project, so although it's cool and there's lots of buzzwords and whatnot used, and yes, I think that he's in line, that is like what needs to happen, but I don't think that is necessarily going to come from within DAOs unless there's a consortium created from different research labs that are implementing big data and software to run these programs, right? To run these equations. Because it's like, yeah, the more computing power that you have, the more data capability that you have, and the more raw data from biology related research, right? The more accurate, and efficient your computation will be, right, for putting together some of these potential cure equations and seeing if they make sense. Now, being able to create that digital being based on genetic sequencing, being able to create a computer program of a human being, right? Essentially, which I think is semi the goal of some of these systems biology labs, right?
Yeah.
Which is huge data, insane amounts of data. Okay. If you create that digital being, then yes, you could potentially plug in like 20 years of cigarette smoking into that digital being and then see how that affects, the rest of that digital being, right? So yeah, I don't think that it's like DeSci is the thing that's on the edge of this. There's plenty of people that are already on that cutting edge. Maybe DeSci and Web3 can help, but you have a lot of people that are creating these computer programs and whatnot. We're building decentralized governance for software long before blockchain was around, right? So many of them are in the Science DAO.
Yeah.
That's a little known fact that some of the original decentralized governance and cryptography people with systems biology and genetic sequencing are actually in the Science DAO.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I do know you've assembled quite the all-star team, but I'm not necessarily always abreast of where their specific areas of expertise are. That's something I need to kind of dig deeper in. But yeah, I absolutely know the general resume of that advisory board, for instance, is top notch. So
Yeah, you will. I mean, look, you're gonna see things come out. I know we're going over an hour. You're gonna see things come out, and people are gonna use. And I'm sure that is a amazing group, and everything. But you'll always see people use these different buzzwords, right? They'll use jargon, right? Things that people will understand more easily. But most of these giant research labs, that are working in systems biology, um, they already exist. They're already billion-dollar funded labs.
mhm,
You know what I mean? They're already there doing this stuff. I'm
mhm,
not sure if DeSci, buzzwords and hashtags and certain things are going to be the right path. I don't know if, like, imagine there's somebody like me that's like, hey, let's just do science like this on blockchain, right? Like, what do I know? You know what I mean? Like, I can't just come in and be like, yeah, we use blockchain to do this. It's gonna be better. You know, you're not listening to the right guy. You know what I mean? That's what I
for
think.
sure. Yeah. Anything else? Final words.
Nah, we're at an hour. I hope everybody's good. If we could cut that one little section, maybe I can post it as like the announcement, and then I can maybe skip like a VC.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the first 10 minutes or so, we're talking
Yeah.
about the new project. I'll do
Yeah.
that.
And then that last little bit where I was talking about
Let's
science
talk
and
about this.
stuff.
Let's talk about it offline. Hold on.
Okay.